I'm here. I've been here since yesterday evening. We had a speakers dinner. Maybe I felt the traffic problems in my gut somewhere, so I decided to come early. But we were here with most of the speakers today. We were eating here in the restaurant. We talked about mobile almost the entire evening, or the entire evening. If we were talking about mobile, probably we were talking just about other technologies. So I can assure you that the level was extremely high. Everybody here talking almost exactly what mobile is today, and I'm sure you will be learning a lot and probably even getting inspired. So welcome. I'm glad to be the first speaker, and thank you all for being here so early or taking the train. I'm going to start with some numbers, some statistics to give a sketch about of the context of what mobile is today. We do this kind of research every year in the company because we have about 300 applications and websites that we have built and released. A good chunk of those are still live, of course, and so we can do yearly analysis to see how mobile progresses. And this, I think, is an interesting statistic. And definitely one that Chris, who I believe is the next speaker, will like to argue about, because Chris is from Firefox and he's kind of on the web side of things rather than the app side, native app side of things. But I think we would both agree that we're not really choosing sides there. We're very pragmatical about it, and web is just another very relevant platform for mobile. But what I think that you are seeing in the numbers is that the time spent on web is decreasing. And it's decreasing because the time spent in applications is increasing. So people are spending more and more time in applications and less time on the web. So this is just one way to look at it. There are of course page views, but they are not always so relevant for native applications. There are transactions, for example, and transactions, you will see that more than 80% of the financial transactions happen on web. But I think this is an important way to look at the growth of native applications within mobile. You should see this also a bit as a tilted graph, because of course you have some determining factors like Facebook or Netflix, for example, or all gaming applications who take up huge amounts of our time, and so they reflect very heavily in this graph. This is another way to look at it. This is not just digital time spent, but digital media time spent. So on our video, newspapers, what have you. And there you see that not 10% of that time spent on mobile websites. You see the desktop, that's the white line, you see it going down. Of course, that's a trend that I don't think I still have to explain to you. You see that over 50%, that is 51% of our digital media time is spent in applications. And these are also numbers, so they account for Belgium, I should say. And they are easily comparable to numbers for Europe or global numbers, which are more easy to get, but there are no other good numbers, I think, for Belgium. You will see that if you launch an app today and it's an Android and an iOS application, that you will still have 58% of the downloads on iOS. That surprised me because we saw a downward trend. We started doing this, taking these statistics in 2011, about a year after we started up, and then we had 20% of the downloads on Android. So Android was growing pretty fast. But there was a stagnation. These are almost the same numbers as last year. They're just the numbers you can only count. So but I do believe that over time Android will surpass Belgium, will surpass iOS downloads in Belgium, as they are doing this all over the world. And this is the reason. These are global numbers where you see that Android devices are really flooding the market. In 2012, 22% of the devices were Android devices, smartphones, and today that's almost half of the devices. And half, you should understand, that's actually still a bit of a low number in our context, because when we say global, we also say Africa, Brazil, India, where there are still lots of Nokias, for example. Who here has a Nokia phone today? That's one. If I would have asked the question 5 years ago, who would have had a Nokia then? think that most people would have some sort of Nokia device. So they used to be, I think they had 53% of the market of smartphones, for example. So completely disappeared, but it still exists in BRIC countries, for example. So if you would look at the Western part, you would have much more Android devices. So it's really dominating, and it will reflect in the download numbers of the time. This is the last number because numbers are boring, but I just want to say that if you look at all the media channels, mobile, online, television, radio, print, you see that all of the media are decreasing. So all the time spent with media is going down. But there's one that's going up, of course, and that's mobile. So it means that we humans spend more and more time on this mobile channel, and it's taking our time away from other media. So this kind of translates to this image about 3 generations, and it's a kind of an artificial way to draw a line between generations, I think. But it's justified. You can talk about digital immigrants. These are people who didn't grow up with digital, so they had to learn digital when they grew older. I think the Pope is a good example there. He needs clergymen to help him handle the iPad. I heard he's doing well on it. The new Pope, this is what I was expecting, Pope Benedict. Then you have digital natives. These are people that did grow up with digital, that know the internet from a very young age, and they have made it to their benefit, of course. And Mark Zuckerberg is a great example, someone who grew up with this. It was in his fingers, so to speak, and he created, of course, a pretty successful business plan on it. Now, the third category is not yet an official sociological category, but you see the term popping up here and there. I think it's a keeper. It's called the mobile born generation, and it's about our children, and they grow up in a world where there are smartphones and tablets everywhere, and when they use these devices, it goes very naturally. It feels like it's made for them. They know how to work these things better than their grandparents often, and they are kind of growing into this expectation of the world that we never had. We think that everything they touch should be online, should be connected, and should be touch friendly. And actually, that is something of which I think the results can hardly be overestimated. Because they will grow up in a world where literally everything around them they feel should be anticipating to what they are doing, to what they are thinking, to the problems that they have, or the problems that they might have. And I think that is what mobile is actually trying to achieve. Today, it's growing beyond the smartphone. We'll talk about it later. It's growing beyond the tablet. It's starting to go everywhere around us, and that's opening up for some new ways of interaction with our environment that will have a major impact on all businesses. So this not only this mobile born generation, but all of us, we have become digital consumers. And that means that we expect new kinds of services from companies. We expect new things from their products. And if you summarize that, if you kind of want to grasp the digital consumer, which is definitely not the same consumer that as a marketing manager or as a sales director you had to take into account a couple of years ago. So we have changed as consumers. If you want to grasp that person, I think you should accept that this is someone who wants great and personal experience, someone who wants to have a good product, and it translates very well in the app economy. The users are extremely critical, so they will discard your application if it's not top-notch. They want to know, they want to have the best possible experience. And they also want it to be personal and relevant. They expect that the app knows what they need and that it takes care of those needs. They want choice and control. They want social advocacy. They want transparency. And social advocacy, of course, is that they go looking on Twitter and Facebook to know what is it that we need to download, what products are good for us. That's how we get our recommendations. And transparency means that they want to know where is this product coming from. If they have friction or problems, they want to intervene, they want to talk to the people behind that. And of course, there's the 27 everywhere mantra that has always been core to the principle, core to the role of mobile. So people have become very demanding. and they are actually changing the way that the companies deal with consumers, of course. And when I mean changing the companies there, I'm talking about innovative, good companies that are trying to survive this disruption. So companies must change, and how must companies change? They must offer differentiated experiences, and it's actually a euphemism. They must offer better experience. They must be better than their competitor. So if the competitor has the same content to offer, which often happens, you might have two competitors that sell the same thing, and then it's all about the experience that you can offer, and it must be better. And in terms of digital, this is something that we see. Payments is a good example of that. Often it's all about the experience. If the more the experience is seamless, the better chance the product will have of surviving. It becomes often more important than, for example, security in this world. You must have a coherent and multi-channel product offering. So what does that mean, coherent and multi-channel? Maybe I should give an example. The user shouldn't be thinking about where am I using this product, for example. So if you suppose you have a calendar application, a mobile calendar application, showing it to a friend, do you say, look at this, it's a mobile application? No, you don't. You say, look at this, it's a calendar. So both you and the person you're showing it to doesn't even need to know that it's a mobile application. And best of all, it should be that product is multi-channel, so it's available on every digital channel that you're confronted with. So the mobile part kind of has to go out of there. There should be no fixation on being present on mobile, you should be multi-channel. And it sounds a bit weird, but the linguists are saying that digital, the word digital, is going to disappear from our vocabulary in the next couple of years, because everything becomes digital. It's silly to say that something is digital to people, definitely to the mobile-born generation. For example, if you have an old-fashioned calendar, let's say, do you tell people, look at this, it's ink printed on paper and it helps me organize my week? No, you don't. You say it's a calendar. It doesn't really matter anymore if it's digital or printed. So you have to be on all the possible channels where it makes sense, of course, in a way that it makes sense and in a way that feels coherent, continuous experience for consumers. And as a company, you have to be agile and responsive to change. Meaning that you can't really make the big plans anymore. Let's say we will do this within a year, and we will involve the entire company and try to execute that plan. A year is much too long in mobile, so you have to be there in 3 months, let's say, and then evaluate and move on. That's what agile is all about. So I want to talk about these good mobile products, because today, of course, is the mobile convention, and the digital consumer wants lots of stuff, but we talked about the experience and the products, and this is key to give companies a competitive edge. They need to have good mobile products. And so what I believe are core to good mobile products are a couple of basic things, and I'm going to put this, you can say that a good product probably needs about 20 to 30 things, but I want to give you about 4, I think, which today are increasingly becoming relevant in mobile. So one is focus, and this is something that we've been saying for a couple of years now, but now you see that more and more companies are getting this. The buzzword there is unbundling and purpose-built application. An app should fulfill only one well-defined purpose. It's a tool to do one thing. If you try to put 2 things in an application, then you will get into trouble. For example, we've done this lots of time, creating an application for a newspaper, for example, and then they will say, well, with the newspaper, we also have this crossword puzzle, we have the weather, and we have traffic information, so we want to put it in there as well. So then you see that why do people use a news application? It's because they want to be informed, they want to know what the news is, they open up the application, they check the news, and they leave the application. No one says, I'm going to open up this application and check all the features in there. No one does that. So it's for weather, they will go to the weather app, for news, they will go to the news app. So you have to get these separated. I don't care, you can put the weather in the news application, but you should know that it clutters the user experience, and it will not be used. So those are the numbers. Another thing that's very important is updating. It sounds trivial, of course you have to update an application once in a while, but updating should be part of the strategy. And this is what Facebook does. Every 4 weeks you get an updated version of the application. It hasn't completely changed, but people have been complaining about certain stuff, bugs were found, features were hard to reach or whatever. Facebook has learned from this and completely updated the application. Not completely changed, but they updated the application in order to get customers happy, to get more success, to get better business results. So if you don't update an application, the engagement will go down, and people will start thinking that the application isn't up to standards anymore, and they will leave the application. For many companies, that means that if you lose that engagement, this is the perception that they get of your company. So you have to continuously work on your application, not in full force and not really completely reinventing, but you have to show this commitment to the users, keep making the application better. Another thing which I think is probably the most interesting trend that we see today is that people don't really browse through the App Store anymore, and they don't browse through their smartphone anymore. So that's not something that we do anymore. We used to do that. So in the weekends when it was rainy, we sat on the couch, we took our iPhone, a brand new iPhone, we went to the App Store and went to the top 10 free downloads, for example. And then we looked at these applications, and it was free, it was highly recommended, it was popular, so we downloaded a couple of those and we had fun with our applications. When we met our friends, we said, look at this, I have an app here and it's beer and I can drink it, and you see it pours into my mouth. And so Carl's store was very happy about that. The app users were happy, everyone was happy. But in those days, apps were gimmicks, and so people loved to just play around with them because it was all new and it was this kind of new technology. But today, this is no longer the case. Mobile has gone mainstream and it's a normal part of their lives, and so we don't consider application as something that we should go to anymore, they should come to us. So you have to, as a publisher, as a developer, you have to create applications in such a way, you have to design them so that there are hooks, so that people, when they need them, when they want to use them, that they pop up. So that's, maybe it sounds a bit magical, but this is what is happening in the app industry. This is the evolution that's taking place. I'll show you two ways that both Apple and Google are working on this. On the right side, you see an Android search on an Android device, of course. And when you search, you just press the search bar, you search for, let's say, a restaurant, or like here, you press Evia, which is a restaurant. You will get search results from the internet, so websites, but you will also get search results from within applications. Meaning that you will be in a certain context, you have a certain need, and Android will surface applications to you, and then you can just download them, because with 4G it takes about 2 seconds, and if the application is smart and doesn't require you to register or do some complex onboarding mechanism, then you can just start using the application and find the restaurant through that application. On the left side, you have another way that apps appear when you might have the need for them, and it's through beacons. You will hopefully hear more about beacons a bit from me, but later on there are other people doing lots of stuff with beacons today. You will grasp the details of that soon. But beacons are very simple devices that broadcast a signal, and they can actually wake up an application that's on your smartphone, basically. So this is an example of a beacon hanging in a Starbucks, and on the bottom left side you see the Starbucks icon application icon, and it appears on the lock screen. So meaning that you don't have to open your phone. So if you just open your phone to check the time, you'll see that there's an icon of the Starbucks app, and if you swipe it open, you're directly into the application. So the app pops out from all the other applications because you're in the Starbucks, you're in that environment. And why is this? Because people who have a Starbucks application almost never open it when they are in a Starbucks. So that's what we used to think 3 to 2 years ago, like, let's create a Starbucks application. And when people come to Starbucks, what do they do? Open our application and they have the full experience, both offline and online. But that's not true. When we are in Starbucks and we open our smartphones, we open Twitter or Facebook, and we send messages through WhatsApp to our friends. That's what we do. We don't open the retail application. So that's important. Context is everything. I don't have to tell you this, but it's increasingly getting crazier actually, because all kinds of sensors are popping up, and we get so much data from the user and from the surroundings of the user that this context can become something that can be highly engineered and very, very specific. So you get motion data, temperature data, you get weather data, you can get heart rate, not only with the smartphone of course, but with all those connected devices, wearables, heart monitors, stuff like that. And all those can be taken into account to help people lose weight, or to help people find their way around in the building, or to help people sleep better. So this is all pretty new, and it's very early, and we'll see lots of it in 2015. The user interface, I don't know if I should still say this, said it a couple of times. I think this is a good cartoon of companies that take great care in creating the best possible, the most beautiful possible experiences, and they have taken many more traditional companies to the grave. So, in 2015, a couple of things that you should just know, and I'll run you through them, but will not go into detail. There's iOS 8 that has been released, and there's Android Lollipop. Every time iOS releases a new update, every time Android does it, I would advise go check out the features, because they are defining for what mobile will look like the next year. So in iOS 8 you have the health kit, which is that data that the user gives to the application about his or her movements, and it's accessible for third-party developers, so you can think about doing stuff with the physical data that people generate. There's HomeKit, which is the same thing, but for home automation data, domotics. There's app extensions, apps working together. It has been existing for a while, of course, on Android, but it's available on iOS as well, and there are some nifty things you can do with it. Widgets, same thing, comes from Android, now running on iOS as well, and it shows some interesting applications, of course. Android Lollipop, we have Benefit, which is the same thing. So should I still mention that health will be a major thing in 2015. Android Wear, it's for wearables, a specific iOS. There's websites and applications that Google is kind of juggling on the OS and making sure that you hardly even know if you're in an application or a website. They say the user shouldn't care if it's an app or if it's a website. So we want to kind of throw these in the mix. This is a view that if you want to see your recent applications open, the websites will appear there as well. There's Google Cardboard, so there's a guy here who will demonstrate this kind of VR. That's definitely worth to check out. Another thing that's very important to realize is that the smartphone is growing, and you can take that literally. So it's the breakthrough of the phablet. Ever since the iPhone 6 came out, which is by definition a phablet, we say that the phablet is now the standard smartphone. So these big screens, they mean something. It means that you have more of an experience, more of an immersive experiences. More that visuals become more important, images become more important. It also means that you now have to rethink user design, because you're not able to reach the top with your thumb anymore on the screen. So you will see lots of these navigational controls moving to the bottom of your screen. You see apps change a lot because of it. And then beacons, the next level. Beacons have been important in the last year, mostly for early adoption. Beacons have a huge opportunity. This is a little sketch that we made to show how beacons work. Beacon sends out the signal, the smartphone picks it up, and in the cloud you can decide what you want to do with the user, who is there at that specific location, at that specific point in time. You can use it to send a custom notification, you can use it to do indoor navigation, which is, for example, what we are doing at Brussels Airport, or you could use it for displays, which is what we are doing for a bank, for example. And then you have this is from Estimate. It's called NEBL, so they are actually beacons, the same technology, but in sticker form, and they also measure temperature and movement, for example, these NEBL. So that's what I mentioned with the sensors becoming more powerful and increasingly potent. What you can do with something like this, well, you can do anything. You can attach it to your dog and arrive at home at night and then see how much your dog is running around. You get this data from the dog. You can stick it on a bottle of wine, put it in the fridge, and get a notification when the wine is cold enough to drink, for example. And you will see, if you start brainstorming about this opportunity, that the opportunity is bigger than we can grasp today. The smartwatch, it's I think a very important new technology, but you should expect a slow adoption of this technology in the next year. So it will not be the big breakthrough, but slow adoption, as actually happened to the iPhone 1. So the first iPhone didn't really break through, it was a slow adoption. It became increasingly popular, and after a few years there was the real breakthrough. And the thing is that this smartwatch could become the first screen. So that's not the primary screen, but it could become the new first screen. Yesterday, so I was sitting next to Chris. You will see he has a MOCO 360 around his wrist. If he gets an email or a message, he just checks his wrist, not his smartphone anymore. Why? Because he's lazy, of course. And all of us are very lazy in that way. If we can do something in a more easy way, a more seamless way, we will choose that path. The connected home, I'm going a bit fast now because I think I'm running against my time here. The connected home automation, very important in the Internet of Things happening. The connected car, it's streaming from your application to cars. I think it's very interesting as well. So Android is working heavily on that, and iOS is doing the same with CarPlay. But actually, the problem there is that the car manufacturers are pushing them back a little bit. So they do want that integration, but they're not ready to give up that software platform that they have in their cars, of course. But you know, it will be hard. We will be creating apps for Volvo per se. So that's kind of is that another market for apps? Then this is not settled yet. We will see what happens in the next 2 years. And you should keep an eye on this technology, virtual reality. You can get demos here today. You should really do it because it's lots of fun, and it won't really be the big breakthrough of 2015. But it's so much fun that you know that over time this will become a very important technology. Drones, you all know drones. GoPro is now building drones. I think most families will own drones in a couple of years because they're so cheap and so cool for photography and other stuff. Then you have Watson. It's from IBM and it's a supercomputer. But they now made it available for developers with certain partnerships. And so now you can build what they call cognitive apps. These are apps that reason with you, that think, and they rely on Watson's intelligence basically to predict certain stuff and to understand natural language. I think this will be a huge leap in innovation once this technology breaks through. Final slide, you should keep an eye on these sectors because from all the things that I just mentioned, which was a very quick overview of what might happen in mobile in the next year, I think you will understand that health will become pretty much disrupted in the next year. It's a very important industry that will feel this wave coming to them. Also the telco industry, of course, with WhatsApp and Voxter and stuff like that, which is more and more being used by young people and now also by the older people. Education, with education online, more and more here that universities are no longer that the way that we teach our children is no longer adapted to the current situation. And finance, I think, also will change completely in the next few years, mostly payments there will have an impact. So that was it. I think my time is up, so if you want to ask me questions, I think we'll do that in the break. Thank you.